Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Masonite API development series. I'm Yuraz, and in this video we are going to talk about migrations. Okay, so let's start by knowing the commands list that we are going to use. And in order to check all those commands list, we can run python craft and then help. So here are the list of commands, and you can see these are the commands that are needed for our migration. And if you do python craft migrate, then this will run migration files. If you do refresh, then this will roll back all the migrations and migrates them again. If you want to reset everything, then rolls back all migrations, migrate reset, and migrate rollback rolls back the latest batch of migrations, and migrate status displays migration status, and migration creates a new migration file. So let's start by running migrate status just to see what do we have here. Python craft migrate status. So you can see we have two migration files. The first one is create password reset table and the create users table, and you can find all those migration here in migrations directory inside databases. um, I'm going to use PostgreSQL in this project. So I think we need to install psycop-z2 binary first in order to connect with our database. Let's see if everything is set up properly or not. So db connection, let's go to our ORM in the ORM documentation, and from installation you can get all the configuration that you need for Postgres. So the driver we are going to use is Postgres, and the dbhost is localhost, and the port is 5432, and db database, let's call it blocks API. And for db username, I do have my username here, and I don't have password in my database. So let's start by opening data grip. So I'm using data grip to communicate with database. So hold on. So okay, so here I have data grip opened, and here inside tutorial series I'm going to create one new database. So new database, and our database name is blogs_API. So click on OK, and this is exactly the same name that I used here. If you click on public and then try to view contents, then you don't see anything there. So let's try by migrating these two migration files. So python craft migrate. So I'm running this command here, this command. So this will run the migration that we have here. Okay, so hit enter, and as I've already told you, in order to communicate with Postgres database, we need psycop-z2 to be installed. So I'm gonna copy this command and paste it here. Oh, mistake. Okay, it's done. Now let's run python migrate python craft migrate status to check the status of migration. And now let's run python craft migrate to run the migration. So migration, these migrations ran successfully, and if you try to run python craft migrate status, then you can see we have these two migrations, and those migrations ran successfully. So previously it was showing n, and now it is showing yes. Okay, so let's go to our database, refresh it, and see if we have those tables or not. So you can see we have password resets and users table, and migration table is keeping log of all those migrations. So it will help to roll back our migration files and stuff. Okay, so let's try another command here. So we have rollback, so rolls back the last batch of migrations. So you can see the batch number here, 1 and 1. So this will simply roll back all the migrations. Let's do that. Python craft migrate rollback. So now go back to our tables and refresh the database again. Now you can see we do not have any tables because we roll back all those things. So let's run migrate again and refresh the page, I mean database, and we now have 2 migrations. And let's give this to like batch, change batch to 2 and update. So now we are going to try another command, which one is rollback and reset. So rollbacks, rollback, I mean migrate rollback will only roll back the recent batch of migration. So in our context, this will roll back the user's table only because this one is the latest one, you know. Let's try to do rollback. Python craft migrate rollback. So now this rollback user's table only. So if you refresh this, then you can see we have only password reset table. Now let's try to migrate again, or let's try to see the status of migration. Python craft migrate status. Now you can see that this migration has been like already in our database, so it's showing yes, it already ran. So now we still have to migrate this one because this was never ran, like we do not have that table here in our database. So now let's run that. Python craft migrate. Now refresh our migration again. So you can see we do have 2 migration files, batch 1 and batch 2. We have another command, which one is reset here. So this will roll back everything. So the rollback, migrate roll back the recent batch of migration, but this will reset everything. So let's try that again. I mean, to see what that does. Craft migrate reset. So this reset ran successfully, and we do have that these 2 migrations roll back successfully. So we had 2 migrations, so it ran everything, so resets everything. So let's run Python craft migrate again. Then those 2 migrations ran successfully. Now let's try to create a new migration, I mean new table. For our project, I actually created an ER diagram, the concept, like what table we are going to use, kind of stuff, you know. So here in routes, I have created one route which is related to docs. And if you go to welcome controller at docs, so inside app controllers and then welcome controller, then you can see docs. This is returning a view which is docs. So inside templates you can see docs.html, and here I'm using mermaid.js. So I'm using mermaid.js to render all these things, and I created this ER diagram. Let's see how it looks like. Python craft serve. Let's go to localhost 8000. Okay, and if we go to docs, then we can see the basic foundation of our database. We'll have we'll have this user table, blocks table, and categories table. So if you want to check the relationship, then one user can have multiple blocks, and each blocks can have multiple categories, and each category can have multiple blocks. So it means user has many blocks, and block belongs to many categories. Okay, so we are going to create these tables. We already have user table, so let's start by creating blocks table here. In order to create block, let me stop the server here, and to create the migration we have command Python craft migration. Okay, so here let's give the name of our migration. Let's follow the naming pattern here. So inside database, if you check, then in order to create users table, they are using create users table. Okay, so let's use create blocks table. Perfect. So this created a blocks table here. Now let's start by filling sorry, table dot string. We're gonna have title. Yeah, that's perfect. And table dot string, we're gonna have slug which is going to be unique in our case. Table.string excerpt a small brief content of our blog. Table.text content, this is going to be long, that's why I'm using text here. And table.unsigned integer user ID, so that user can have multiple blocks. Okay, so that's why we are creating a foreign key here. Let's give index here, a proper index. Table dot references ID, I mean user ID, on users table on delete references user ID, this references ID on users table on delete cascade. Let's do this. Okay, so we have title, slug, excerpt content, and unsigned integer user ID, references ID on users table on delete cascade. Perfect. So let's migrate this. Python craft migrate status to check the status of migration. So this migration is remaining to migrate, so Python craft migrate. Blueprint object had no at last foreign. Okay. So I think I missed here. Foreign dot user ID. Okay, so on-site integer table foreign key user ID references ID on users on delete cascade. Okay, so let's try to run the migration again, and it says we already have blocks table because we did mistake here and it is giving us that issue. Let's go to our database and see what is going on there. Let's see if we have migration. We do not have migration, but we mistakenly created this blocks table, so we have to remove this one from here. Blunder mistake. Let's remove that and let's try to run again. Clear Python craft migrate. Now it ran successfully. So if you go to tables and refresh, then you can see we have blocks table here, and inside migrations you can see we have migrations, create blocks table. Let's start by creating another table. So that one is category, Python craft migration create categories table, hit enter. Now this categories migration has been created. Let's copy a few items from here, and in our schema we are using name, so let's use name here. And we also have enum status, so table.enum status, enum is an array, that's why we are using this, will be either draft or published. Okay, perfect. And by default we can use draft as a default value for status if we don't pass any value in status. Okay, perfect. Because blocks and categories has many to many relationship, we need to create pivot table. So let's start by creating another table, migration create block category table, and let's give a table name here, not table name, pass in create. And now if you use this create parameter here, then I mean argument, then you can pass the table name. So if I type block category here, then this part will be this value. Okay, so hit enter, and this one is created successfully. Now we have block category. Let's copy this value, I mean fields, from there to here, and let's update the user ID to block ID and references ID on blocks table. Let's paste one more time, and sorry, and this one will be category underscore id references id on categories cascade. Done. Let's migrate python craft migrate. It's done. Let's open data grip and see. Okay, we do have these two migrations here. So if you refresh on the table, then you can see block category, blocks, categories. Perfect. So let's create a model for this one. I think video will be longer, so let's talk about migrations. We'll talk about models in our next video. So you can see how we used these extra properties, I mean functions, to pass the value. Like if we have to make this block id field indexed, then you can pass index. If you want to make certain field nullable, let's say in blocks, let's say this except will be nullable, then you can pass nullable here, so this field will be nullable. You can also put index like in this manner. That's perfect. Oh, looks like we have forgotten to adding status field there. So we already ran migration, so let's add by adding extra field in blocks. So in that case, if you want to add a new field in previously created migration, then what you can do is python craft migration add status field in blocks table. So in this case, we are using passing table name for this. So we are telling this migration that we are going to use previously created table. So in this case, blocks table. Hit enter, and you can check the argument here. If you want to give the table, I mean if you want to create a new table, then you will have to pass this create argument, and if you want to select previously created table, then you can pass this table argument here. And here you can see we have schema table blocks as table. So table dot enum status, and okay, we do have draft and publish. We also have to roll back this one, so copy and paste the above code. Table drop column, and the column name is status. Perfect. Now python craft migrate, and this ran successfully. Let's go to our blocks and see if we have status or not. So we do have a status field. If you roll back that python migrate roll back and go back here and refresh, then you can see that status field is gone. So perfect. So we created our tables based on this foundation or ER diagram that we had. If you want to create similar diagrams, then you can go to mermaid.js. The link will be posted down in the video description for you guys. So this is quite nice and easy to use. Okay, so this was our migrations, and in next episode we'll talk about models and sheets. We'll play with inserting content into our database and this stuff. Okay, so stay tuned. Hope to see you guys again. Thank you. Bye.